Question number 11.
Speaker.
Order. Question number 11, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister for Tertiary Education, does he believe that students and staff at every university should have the right to participate in the election of university councils?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, I believe that universities are large, complex organisations full of intelligent people who are more than capable of determining their governance arrangements within reasonable guidelines, Mr. Speaker, and I'm confident that they will make the best decisions to represent their stakeholders and direct their universities.
Supplementary question, Dr.
In light of that answer, why is there
David
no
Cunliffe.
consistent approach to democratic university council representation around New Zealand, and what has he got against democratically elected university staff and students?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, I have nothing against the letter.
Supplementary question.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister,
David
does he
Cunliffe.
agree that the three core functions of any university are teaching, research and a contribution as critic and conscience of society? And if so, how are those three purposes served by the removal of representation on university councils?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm just trying to think whether those three things, which I agree are very important, are determined by the nature of the governance arrangements of an institution. In fact, they are very important institutions, but I think Mr. Cunliffe takes a rather amazing leap in logic to suggest that the two are definitely linked, but of course perhaps in Harvard that's the situation.
Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker, instead of stifling democracy, why won't he seek a proper funding increase for the tertiary sector, rather than telling universities they should raise fees to the maximum and then make up the shortfall by lifting overseas student numbers?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, I've missed this hyperbole. The simple reality of the situation is that this government has dramatically, actually, in the context of the global financial crisis, increased the investment in the university sector. And in fact, if a member goes and has a look, it's been over the period that I have been the Minister, it has been significant double-digit increases in funding. But also there is, of course, limits to that funding. And I know the member doesn't appreciate this, but actually the government is also very keen to get back into surplus and to ensure that the tertiary education sector is well funded, but that the government also is responsible in its allocation of finances.
Question number 12, Kevin Haig.